Hold on, I gotta find a pen. I gotta find a pen that actually works. I have
Great.
3 pens sitting here and none of them work.
I thought Bob said he was going to be able to make it tonight. He was the one.
Yeah, he did, and he texted me. He texted me 10 minutes ago and said he wasn't. So,
Oh, okay.
well, Paul's hunting for a pen. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I have 7:02 on my time. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast live over Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be able to be found on Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link below to join on the public meeting webinar, https://us02web.zoom.us/J/11393939, or from a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter the webinar ID 8629113939. If prompted, passcode 210390. If you have not registered with Zoom, you will be asked for your name and an email address. Note, no participant ID is needed. Just press pound when asked. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak. With that, we can start the meeting by reviewing and approving the minutes from prior meetings. Paula graciously provided the very detailed minutes, which I greatly appreciate, of our June 15th meeting. Have folks had a chance to review those? And if so, and any comments, questions, suggestions, or I will entertain a motion to approve.
My only comment is I think Paula did a great job and it was a lot of work. So thank you, Paula,
Thank you.
for the record.
Thanks.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes submitted by Paula.
I'll second
A
it.
second?
I'll
Sarah?
second it.
Thank you. All those in favor? We'll go Sarah,
Yes.
Anna,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
and I for me. Thank you. And the July minutes from our meeting on July 20th, I believe, we will have at our next meeting, thanks to Sarah's work to produce those. So I think that's all we have for minutes to review and approve. So we'll move on to the Holman Street Chapter 61 Notice of Intent to Sell. I forwarded you the notice that was received by the town. As a reminder, the town receives in exchange for someone's enrollment in the Chapter 61 program or 61B or 61A programs, which are provide tax abatements, statutory tax reductions for ownerships of land of certain size and in certain uses. They receive a tax break for having them enrolled in those programs. In return for that tax break, for the landowner retaining their land in an open and relatively undeveloped condition, the town gets in return a 120-day right of first refusal over those properties, should those properties be converted or sold for other uses besides forestry, agriculture, or open space. This property on Holman Street is enrolled in the Chapter 61 program for forest management. And typically under forest management, you receive about a 95% tax reduction in your property taxes for the properties that are enrolled in that program. This owner is proposing to withdraw 5 lots from a larger parcel, somewhere south of 10 acres, I think, if I remember right. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And the planning board and the board of selectmen have asked for open space committee's recommendation on whether or not the town should exercise its right of first refusal for this parcel or parcels for a total sales price of $475,000. The town has 120 days to exercise its right of first refusal, and then otherwise has to step into the role of the buyer under the purchase and sale agreement that's included with the notice of intent to sell. Anybody have any questions about that? Hearing no questions, open the floor for discussion. Does anybody have any thoughts on this right of first refusal?
So you said it was previously in forestry management.
Yes.
Do you know how often it was cut, or do we have any kind of information about that, or do we just have the PNS?
So we just have the PNS. I do know that this parcel was formerly a portion of the Lane estate. And you may remember several years back, the town purchased a portion of the Lane property for addition to town forest. We specifically did not pursue the acquisition of the west side of Holman Street. And there was, the landowner reserved that portion of the property and a portion on the easterly side that included the house and the surrounding grounds around the house.
Yeah.
And then later sold those lands to the current owner, Darren Massey.
Mm-hmm.
The parcel was in open space, but it was not enrolled in Chapter 61 programs at the time when the Lanes were the owners. They did not do active forest management on their property. So the enrollment happened under Mr. Massey's ownership, and the sort of active management that went along with the enrollment started then. You may be aware he had done or I think they did the timber sale actually as part of the conveyance into Mr. Massey's ownership.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what is part of the conveyance with,
They did the forest, they did a forestry cut harvest on the parcel as part of the conveyance. I think that's one way the seller had retained some value as part of that conveyance, was they were able to extract some forestry value out of it.
got it, okay. So I don't know Mr. Mass's property line, but this is a small portion of his total property, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
If you look at the end of the purchase and sale agreement,
did I
there's
receive that?
there's a sketch plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay, the sketch plan, I saw that, but that doesn't show the entire of his property, is that correct?
So you'll see where it says, maybe I can share my screen. That might be the easiest.
Okay,
So the parcels being taken out are here on the south end.
We can't see your screen, Brandon.
Can't see my screen.
No.
Sorry. I didn't
No.
finish sharing. So the parcels being taken out are on the south end, sorry, down here. And Mr. Massey owns the remainder of parcel 11 in here and parcel 17 in here. So looks like they have about 92 acres, 93 acres remaining out of what's being sold. And the plan is here for that parcel that divides it into those 5 lots. So would be easier if I oriented this slightly differently, so it looked like the same as the other one. So this is the south end. This is sort of that south end. This sort of strange shape here is equivalent to.
What is lot A? Did I see a lot A?
Yeah, I don't think lot A is part of his property.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I believe it was conveyed out and added to the adjoining parcels previously.
Okay,
So
I mean-
I believe this is the line here.
Right.
It's not perfectly clear, quite honestly. But
It does appear that the surrounding area is residential.
yes.
Yeah.
That's true. The one question I had, actually, Paula, as our planning board rep, when did the planning board review this subdivision plan?
oh gosh, not since I've been on the board. I couldn't tell you, Brendan, I'd have to look. I can tell you,
Which subdivision are you talking about, Brendan?
When they
Yeah.
divided these lots.
you
Oh,
mean, when was the A&R approved?
Yes.
Well, Tanner Cole, no, I didn't sign it. It should have a date on it in the bottom, in the title box. Can you hold on one second?
Yep.
It's in there, August something. I can't quite read it, Brendan.
It looks like August 24th.
Yeah, and it looks like I
Guessing.
wasn't there, and it looks like I wasn't there, so that would explain why I don't know. So just to be clear, if an A&R comes before the planning board, all we can look at is lot configuration to see if it meets zoning. We don't have the ability to deny an A&R plan, and if it has meaningful access on a town way and it meets the zoning bylaw, it has to be signed.
The reason I ask is because the right of first refusal is supposed to be triggered when a landowner expresses an intention to convert. And certainly dividing this into residential lots certainly strikes me as an intention to convert to non-forestry uses. And so it's one of those things where it feels like that should be a bell that goes off in the land use departments that says, you know, this is an intention, there should be, and it's enrolled in chapter 61. This is, does this trigger the right of first refusal? Or should the town be notified? That the reason is, and I'll put it very bluntly, is that the value is quite different. If the property has been subdivided versus when the property it's been divided into lots, whether it's A&R or subdivision, it's more valuable than it is as a undivided tract of land. And so if the triggering action is the division rather than when they send the notification to us, it would be good to know. So that's more feedback, I think, really for the planning board as and the land use director. I don't, at this point, that ship has sailed. I don't think the town's going to challenge whether or not this is
But
valid.
that's a good point, and I will definitely make that at our next meeting, is that if a piece of property is enrolled in chapter and we're doing an A&R lot, that should trigger review by other town departments.
Yeah, I think it triggers the right of first refusal, frankly, because it's an intention to convert the property.
yeah,
Okay.
but hold on one second. Like, isn't the process for the owner to inform us, isn't them to submit what they, notice intent to sell?
Right.
Is it right? It's not.
Well, it's a notice of intent to sell or an intent.
That's the
to convert.
process.
It's intent to sell or an intent to convert. It's one of either of those things. So an intent to convert is simply you intend to divide the property and build a house for yourself on it. That's an intent to convert.
I
So-
feel concerned on I don't know how to put this, if the property owner has a process to follow, in creating internal triggers within the town that don't necessarily comply with the law or regulations might get us into hot water without knowing. So I wouldn't want us to, or the town to be reviewing anything out of order and that being a reason for us to end up with a lawsuit of that nature.
I
So
don't,
go ahead.
I don't think we would,
Okay.
because they're in chapter, and when they decide to change and come out of chapter, that is when the notification should be sent. I mean,
But
that
I
is
think-
following the law.
But I think what Brandon is saying is that if someone comes in with a large parcel of land that's been in chapter, that means it's open space, it's protected, whether it be forestry or whatever, agriculture, whatever. But when they come in with a plan dividing it into lots for homes, which is an A&R plan, then that is an intent to take it out of the prior use. So even without the purchase and sale, what I'm hearing Brandon say is that the regulations say either intent to sell or intent to convert. And if they file a subdivision plan, there's clearly an intent to convert.
And so, I mean, and really I'm posing it as a question and maybe there is, I don't know of established case law that says it's not an intent to convert by filing a subdivision plan. So, and I know this has been argued in other places before, so I believe there is I believe it has been settled that doing so is a clear intention to convert. So it's just it's really just a matter of process.
Yeah.
Why don't
Well,
we reserve time with town council to ask him this question? I'm happy to meet with him to ask him this question.
And I may even suggest that you start with Adam Burney. He may have asked this question before and already believes maybe he already has an opinion on it.
I mean,
but I agree.
I can see, if I had 100 acres of land and, and I'm, carving out, 5 lots to leave it for my children and keep the rest protected. So I don't know, like, and that be the plan settled, so it goes and, I can spend it. I don't know. I just don't want us to jump the gun too much and us ending up, and the town ended up in problems with residents. Because
Yeah,
what,
I agree. And I don't think
and-
what I'm asking here is that
Right.
we just go forward with a cavalier here, with
And-
establish a policy here.
right, and the other thing that it's a personal, what I see happening anecdotally in town is we have, people from town who wants to do a small development or wants to do, do something with their property that they own and they bought and they've been paying taxes on, even if it's a 95%, only paying 5%. The town, a lot of times through our process of wanting to stop everything, we make it impossible for our neighbors to, get use of their land. And then comes a big developer that I can cite many cases that comes to mind, just thinking, and they just bulldozes through, every court, and they get just what they want, and it's much more detrimental to the town itself than, someone doing 5 parcels. But generally speaking, I think we, the town, I've seen patterns where we make it harder for our neighbors to take advantage of the property that they own. And I'm all for open space and conserving land. It's an observation.
I just want to respond to that and say that there are many, many plans that come before the planning board for small developments that are approved because they meet the requirements. And I can name numerous properties. For example, the Orchard went through the right of first refusal process and is now being developed. There's property throughout the town that has been subdivided by families for children. There have been lots that have been divided for sale to allow older people to remain in their homes. So as long as the plan meets the zoning requirements and has the appropriate frontage, the planning board has no ability to stop them from moving forward. It's when there's a large scale development that triggers a site review or a special permit. So I just want to be clear that there is no impetus to moving forward with a standard subdivision that meets zoning and frontage.
Sure. So, and in my opinion, reviewing these plans, this is a small portion of the land. It is in a residential area, like there are houses around, there's homes around. I don't see the benefit for the town to add this to our long list of properties that we own.
I would tend to agree. I think that Mr. Massey is retaining the majority of the property. I know that he does intend to forest that portion of the property and has expressed interest in creating a trail system on that property. I think he is a conservationist and is interested in retaining as much of the property as he can. And I'm sure he has his personal reasons for wanting to cut off these 5 lots. And personally, I think enough of the property is being retained as open space. And still, as was stated, it's a residential area for these 5 lots. So I'm not opposed to not exercising our right of first refusal.
Mike, Sarah?
Oh, well, Paula said it eloquently, but when I was looking at it as a residential area, I was thinking, we have the Lane property that is large, and the other property, it's still 92 acres of forest. And the zoning around there is residential. So I'm thinking about our long-term open space plan. And I'm not sure it meets most of those criteria that are in the plan. So, given we have a lot of property already, and part of it was originally the Lane property, I'm just not sure now's the time to spend the dollars for that particular area, especially since it's already zoned residential right around that area. And there's so much of the rest of the property remaining.
Mike, anything to add?
No, I agree. I just been quickly looking at GIS stuff while we're talking, and I don't see where it's got any great connectivity to existing open space parcels.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be adding anything to existing conservation open space parcels, and it's pretty much surrounded by residential development.
Yep, I agree. And I'll just, I agree with all those sentiments. I also just would add that, when we were going through the original Lane acquisition, we specifically said to the townspeople that we were going to try to protect the most important portion of that property, and that we would, and that this was a portion of the property we did not try to protect because it did not rise to the level of the greatest importance. So I can't with a straight face say that now it's important, given that we went through that process to acquire the property previously. So it sounds like we have consensus. I would entertain a motion to recommend waiving the town's right of first refusal under this notice of intent to withdraw.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Anna?
Yes, did I get it? Yeah.
Yep, there it is. Mike,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Paula,
Yes.
and I for myself. Carries unanimous. Thank you. Items 4, 5, and 6 on the agenda were updates that were going to be provided by Bob Pease from the Conservation Commission, and he was a late scratch for being able to attend tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and table those discussions for a later date. Any opposition to that?
Nope.
Great. So moving on to item number 7 is really just news. I wanted to share with you guys a newly revised open space handbook, which will be most useful for the next round of the open space plan. This is, I think, just an interesting resource for us and something to refer to and for your own, I guess, knowledge base. So I want to make sure you had that in your possession. Do you, anybody have a chance to review it? Do you have any questions or concerns, thoughts, ideas?
I haven't had a chance to review it.
It might be something worth seeing if we could get linked from our website or our page. That might be interesting for folks if they have, you know, it talks about the right of first refusal, for instance. And it
Okay,
talks
I
about-
can ask Adam about that.
Yeah, it might be a useful thing to have. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
I started to read it, but I haven't gotten very far.
I read through part of it too.
They did a really nice job with it.
I especially like that they quoted out the Leopold.
I'm glad I'm not the only Leopold fan.
You're not. Also a fan of his sons,
Yeah.
Luna.
Moving on to item 8, a bit of news. You may remember we talked about, and I'm sure everybody on this call is aware of what's happened, but we had approved or discussed with the Bright Farms that were looking to develop a portion of property up behind Hannaford there. They were going to donate a piece of property that was going to connect some conservation lands to the Northfield Park that was portion of the Saliba property that we purchased a couple of years ago and added to the Parks Commission's parcels. That 10-acre property would have gave nice trail connectivity in and through those parcels and really helped build sort of the regional trail network. And Bright Farms was planning to build, as part of that process, was planning to build a very large greenhouse on the top of the hill up there for hydroponic growing greens, salad greens. That ultimately fell through and they walked away. You might remember that we also had approved at town meeting a tax increment financing deal and other things too as part of that whole project. So unfortunately that deal had fallen through Bright Farms, and I think they came across another better opportunity for them up in New Hampshire, and they moved onto that project. But as a parting gift, they provided a $10,000 donation to the town of Lunenburg to be used for open space purposes. So there's been a special account set up, and there's $10,000 sitting in that account that we can use for future projects. So
Are there
nice.
any specific restrictions?
Just for open space purposes. So
Okay, so if there was a parcel that was used for open space that we wanted to improve, provide parking, for example, we could utilize that funding?
I think so.
Okay.
You want to build or create more square fields for or parks that also qualifies as,
That would also qualify.
who makes the decision where the funds go?
It's supposedly administered by the Open Space Committee, and of course, we have no power. So I think there's some, I think there's some argument that it could be a wrestling match over it. I have no idea. So
it's,
I think
oh,
what I'll do actually is I got a confirmation from Heather that the donation had been made, and I will forward you the information I have on that. I'll do that right now. I'm thinking of it. So let's see. And there's a letter here. I'll just quickly read the letter. It'll be put it on the record here. This is from O'Neill, who is project director. As I made you aware by phone recently, Bright Farms has decided not to exercise its option to build the greenhouse on Massachusetts Ave in Lunenburg. Bright Farms will soon make a formal announcement of its acquisition of an existing greenhouse. The opportunity to scale quickly in New England. Our decision to choose an alternative site is in no way a reflection on Lunenburg, its leadership or suitability as an excellent place to live and do business. As you know, we spent a year and more working with you with every intention of moving forward to build in Lunenburg until the alternative option fell into our laps. Even then, we decided to forego the option only after careful consideration of the cost and benefits of various options. Lunenburg offered a supportive town just outside of I-495, highly professional leadership, and impressive civic engagement from Planning Board, Open Space Committee, and Select Board. I want to sincerely thank you, the Select Board committee members, and Lunenburg's residents for the support that they showed us during the land exploration process. We're extremely grateful for the time, collaboration, and resources that they devoted to this process. I would be happy to provide a statement for or speak directly with businesses considering investing in Lunenburg. As a token of our gratitude for the support and gratitude, which is a little redundant, Bright Farms will make a donation of $10,000 to be part of the Open Space Committee for land acquisition, signage, upkeep, or other uses. We had hoped to be part of that committee's work with a more donation of property. I'm confident that under the town's current leadership, Lunenburg will continue to attract innovative businesses and leaders to the region. On behalf of everyone at Bright Farms, we wish the town continued success in all of its endeavors.
Very nice.
So, very nice letter, very nice gesture. Not everybody who walks on a project leaves behind such a generous thank you. So I think it's very nice, and we should be so lucky as to have to argue out over what we're going to spend it on.
Yeah.
we'll have a healthy discussion.
A healthy discussion. So yeah, the funds were received, and the finance director was given the information to set up the account. So it should all be set. Any further questions on that?
Nope.
Terrific. Moving on, committee administration. I have, in consultation with my wife, decided that I need to step down as committee chair. I have been, unfortunately, not as effective as I would like to have been in recent months, and that's going to become worse and worse as time progresses on here with my own professional situation. So I've been chairman of this committee since 2009. I think that's been long enough. I would like to remain on the committee and offer my professional and personal capabilities where I can, but I do not have the time and headspace at this point to continue as chairman. So I plan to step down and would greatly appreciate folks' consideration about nominations for a new chairman.
Well, is there anyone that's particularly interested that's existing? Sarah, Anna, Mike?
I feel like I'm too new in the game to be an effective leader or chairperson. Just now getting to know some of these details and the committee's work. So I'm not sure I'm there yet.
Sarah?
I'm pretty limited with the amount of things I can do right now because I just started a different position.
Okay.
So I'm hesitant to take on more, and I've been having consultations with my spouse about my other activities as well. So I hope that there's someone else who has a lot of experience looking at land use things, who's
Well,
sitting.
I may just interject is that the chairperson doesn't necessarily need to be the master of the subject areas. The chairperson is as much an administrator and someone who can lead the meetings and keep us on task. And that's where I really feel like I've been falling short, and where I know I've been kind of, here we've been since July, since we've had a meeting, because I haven't had a moment to think about it. And so it's really just that sort of simple committee administration. So, and my hope is that I can continue to, add my voice to the discussions, and so that I'm still here, participating, assuming
Yeah.
Things don't go too sideways on me.
Yeah. Mike?
What's your timing like, Brennan?
I would be happy to chair the next committee meeting, assuming we set one up now and have it on the horizon, so that we can appoint the next chairperson at that meeting.
I think that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and that gives Eric and Bob a chance to think about it and weigh in as well.
Yeah.
And I will, I've already shared that information with Bob when he texted me earlier that he was going to be able to make the meeting. I'll reach out to Eric as well.
Okay.
So I will just say, I do have limited time, but I would be willing, if there's no one else that feels strongly about it, I would be willing to chair. But I do want to make people aware that I do not intend to run for re-election for the planning board. So my term will be up in May. And as the planning board representative, I would not be on this committee unless there was a vacancy for an at-large member. So while I would be happy to do it until I am no longer a planning board member, it's a short period of time. Just like everyone just mentioned, I have had many a conversation with my spouse, and it's time for me to have been involved with town politics for 17 years, and it's time to focus on my family. So, and my art, which is I really want to get back to. But I think the idea of having it another discussion when everyone here makes sense.
Okay, very good. So with that in mind, is there a date on the calendar here that would work for folks? I think we've generally been looking at the second Tuesday of the month, which would put us at December 14th if we held true to that. So we do December 7th or December 14th as a meeting, sort of in and amongst the holiday season there, if that works for folks.
So later, right now, I'm on the capital planning committee, and the capital planning committee is meeting every Tuesday until we finish the capital plan. So it should be mid-December by the time we finish the plan. But our meetings are typically over at 6:45 because Tom Alonso has to get to the selectmen's meeting. So as long as it's earlier, later, as long as it's at 7, it's not a problem, but any earlier would be an issue.
With that, does anybody have a preference for December 7th or the 14th?
Can we look at something besides Tuesdays? Because I have another board that I'm on that meets on Tuesdays, and it seems to coincide with this one pretty often.
Sure.
Mondays, I have another meeting,
Okay,
and the second Wednesday of the month,
Commissions are
Wednesdays,
Wednesdays.
and I have
Yeah,
another
with-
meeting on
with
Thursday.
my job, I can have night meetings any night of the week, so it doesn't really matter, other than Fridays. Nobody wants to meet on Fridays.
Right.
Does Thursday work for folks?
The 2nd and 4th, I have another meeting. And Sarah's shaking her head.
Thursdays don't work for me.
Okay.
I can meet Friday for my car.
Yeah, I can't make Fridays. Fridays are family.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Um,
stick with Tuesday then, and you know, if my preference would be the 14th because I have another public hearing on the 7th. But
Okay.
that could
And would
change
we-
too.
Would we want to make it a slightly, is 7 good, or do you want to do it 7:30 just to give you a little elbow room there, Paula, so you can have some dinner?
7 is fine.
Okay.
7:30 would be better for me.
Mike says 7:30.
I know that's pushing it kind of late, but that would be better for me. That way I could actually go to the other meeting that's at 7, which,
Yeah.
and then bug out of
Okay.
there after a half hour.
And are we gonna stick with Zoom meetings?
That was at our last meeting. I know that was a pretty strong sentiment that I heard
Yeah.
loud and clear.
Yeah.
So
So sorry, are we doing the 7th or the 14th at 7:30?
Sounds like
14th
it's
at
gonna be the
7:30.
14th.
Okay. Okay.
Does that work for
yeah,
everybody?
I will channel my inner Bob here and just say that I know he doesn't like to go too late. So we'll do I think 7:30 starts fine, and we can just make sure that we are efficient with our time that night.
Yeah. Okay.
Terrific. Thanks for that. For that, I will open for public comment. If anybody has any public comment.
So this is an item I should have let you know to put on the agenda, but I did meet with town council. I won't go into it because it's not on the agenda, but I did meet with town council about the tax title process for the 3 parcels we were looking at on Lake Shirley, and I've also
Mhm.
met with the town manager. So if we could put that on the agenda for the December meeting. But Heather is looking at the costs associated with investigating the title on those properties, and I'm working with her on that.
Paula, do you want to talk about the process in general, or do you want to talk about specific parcels at the December meeting?
I'd like to talk about those particular parcels, but of course I don't have the right notes. But bottom line is that a title search would be needed. And one of the parcels, although it is recorded as being in the tax title process, they didn't finish it, and that goes back to 1970. So council was concerned that the entire process might have to be started again. So he was going to investigate that, and Heather, council will typically do a title search or they will outsource it. But apparently the town manager has a firm that she has worked with in the past that is less expensive. So she's investigating and talking with them about the cost associated with doing a title search specifically on these 3 properties.
The reason why I ask is what's the likelihood that we're going to have a repeat of our June meeting? And we start at 7:30. We'll be there till 11.
Well, I think this would specifically be about, do we want to move forward with the tax title process and request the funding from the Board of Selectmen to do that?
Right.
Regardless of whether the property is sold or kept by the town of Lunenburg, this still has to be done, regardless of what the final use of the property is. But if a decision is made not to pursue public access by the town, then it may make sense to put it back on the tax rolls, via abutters or whatever. So I think understanding the process for all parcels, because as you guys know, there are many, many parcels that are just general municipal, but that haven't gone through the process. So understanding the costs associated with doing a title search, because many of them will need a title search. Understanding more about the costs associated with the tax title process. And then making recommendations on whether or not to pursue access, pursue public use, or to recommend that they be put on the tax rolls, but they're not doing anyone any good right now.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering if we want to take that first part at the December meeting, just to talk about the tax title process, you know, and to reiterate that regardless of use, the town has to go through that process and not delve into the second part of what you just mentioned as
Well,
to
I think
disposition of those particular parcels.
Well, my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong because I wasn't at the July meeting, but my understanding was from Sarah is that we really wanted to understand the costs associated with these parcels, and maybe I misunderstood, which is what I talked to town council about. And honestly, I think the more upfront and more information we can provide, the better. But if we do want to pursue it, we're going to have to go to funding for the selectmen. And I think we have to identify what it is that we want to do. So I think it's better to be open and honest and just put it on the agenda and let the chips fall where they may. That's my thought.
As far as the July meeting, it was, you know, it could be anywhere from here to here with cost to do the tax title search. So if we wanted to get an estimate, we'd have to look at more specific properties. So that is indeed the case.
And I think that's fine. And, you know, and the proviso is that we have to do that regardless of the potential use and disposition of those parcels. I'm asking, I'm not saying we shouldn't, I'm asking, do we want to get into that second level of discussion at this meeting, or do we want to, you know, wade through the tax title process first to have an understanding?
I think we have to, personally, I think we have to make a recommendation to the selectmen if we want to move forward, because it's a very lengthy process.
Okay.
And I think if we want to move forward, you know, we haven't talked about this since July. Personally, I would like to see the process on the agenda, as well as discussion about these particular parcels. And we need to decide as a group whether we want to move forward.
Okay. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm just.
My thoughts. That's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
You know, since we're talking about agenda items, and I know when we're talking about it, we got to talk about specific properties, but you know, there is a property on Lake Shirley that we have clear title already, that, you know, we don't have to go through this whole process to get, you know, the car top access that we want to have.
We don't have any waterfront.
Isn't I'm gonna say perimeter road?
Parmenter.
Yeah, that one, the title is clear. It does provide rooftop access, and it seems simpler to me. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't seem like, we also talked about it before, about visiting some of these properties and seeing what they're offering before we make any recommendations about moving forward with one or the other.
So that's a good note. You know what? I don't know if before our December meeting, if we could schedule a site visit to go take a look at, you know, the Parmenter parcel and the other three that we were talking about, the Hunt Cove. Why don't we do that?
Yeah, because I think, you know, as we make these discussions, like we want to provide public access, hardtop, you know, either canoe or kayak, to the town residents. So we got to decide which parcel be the easiest for us to get that done, and let the town and decide, or the select board decide, how they're going to handle the other properties. We can say, because you know, at the end of the day, if we have 4 properties there that we can have access, can use, we only need one to achieve what we're trying to achieve, right?
Well, you need
I guess I would,
one depending upon the access at that point. If you have one that only has parking for one car, that may not be enough.
right. and
So
the
you might
parliamentary
actually need two parcels that have parking for two cars as opposed to one parcel.
Right, and
Okay,
depending on accessibility as well. I mean, to me, the Parmenter property is concerning because of the steep slope. And the ability of handicapped people to enjoy it. So I'm not necessarily in favor of that parcel. So, you know, I think a site visit is a good idea, and I think putting the whole topic back on the agenda makes sense.
right. So then we can make a decision which one we find to be the best property for our goals and make a recommendation on that one that we'd like to pursue. Despite, you know, having to do title search or not, this would be the one that will fit the open space committee goals. And I think that's really the question that we should be asking is which one is the best? And the one that's the best is the one that we should invest work on.
I agree.
Yep. So should we talk about potential dates and times for a site visit? Because we'll have to post that as a meeting.
Sure.
So that would have to be, for me, it would have to be a weekend day.
Yeah, with the way it's getting dark, I think it
Yep.
would be for most people.
So the 27th and 28th are the weekend of Thanksgiving. We have to avoid that.
The morning of the 20th of the 21st.
I could
Would
make
have to
one of
be-
those work.
It would have to be.
20th that's Saturday, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
In the morning, I could do that.
I could do the morning, but I have to be home by noon.
Yeah,
Yep.
I can do the 20th.
Likewise.
November
what time?
20th?
Yeah, November 20th. And where do we want to meet?
We call it, what, 8
Wanna meet
a.m., 9 a.m.,
9 a.m.
let the morning chill get out. If we have a morning chill, seems like that's
Do we
Wow.
want to meet at the Ritter and carpool so we don't try to all park?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably the best thing to do.
I can fit 7 people in my car, so we could
Okay.
all maybe go in one.
It look like a clowns in a circus.
No, I have 5 grandkids, so we have a 3-seat car, so.
Nice.
Do we want to
Okay.
have December 4th as
Rain date,
a rain date?
December what?
December 4th?
I could, yeah. I
Or the
could-
11th, or the 11th, doesn't matter. That would be after our meeting though, or would that be after our meeting? That would be
The
right-
11th I can't do, the 11th and 12th I can't do.
Okay,
The
Yeah,
4th
so
and
let's
5th I
hold,
could.
let's hold the 4th as a rain date and
okay.
let's.
I got my company holiday party the night before, so don't expect me to be bright and cheery on the 4th.
Do you want to move it to the 5th?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, move it to the 5th?
Spoken like somebody with experience.
Yeah,
12-5.
I am not the designated driver.
All right, so we'll hold the 5th as our rain date,
Okay,
and we will, from a public meeting standpoint, we'll probably have to post what parcels we're going to visit. So yeah, I will, if you can each individually just tell me, it doesn't have to be
I can
tonight.
shoot you the addresses because I have them from the minutes.
Great.
there were 4 or 5 down there?
Four,
Four.
I believe we're
Okay.
talking about.
Yep.
And one of them, the 3 are contiguous, so it's really
Okay.
just 2 locations.
And one was across the street, so that may not,
Right,
right, okay,
right, but literally right across the street, so.
right, okay.
Thank you.
One thing we have to be careful about when we do a site visit is we can't have a lot of discussion. We need to look at the property, but we can't have a lot of back and forth unless we have it in a public setting. So be aware of that.
Okay,
I hear we can ask questions, right? But not discussions. Like I'm new in the process, so I might have questions that regarding kayaking and boats and that is not a discussion. Correct?
Let me check with the town manager and I'll
Okay.
do that before we do the site visit.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly, I mean, Bob and the Conservation Commission do site
They
visits.
do it all the time, yeah.
So he can be our mouthpiece on those things.
Yeah.
so we're gonna meet at the Ritter Building?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Great. Any other public comment?
Nope.
Hearing none, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, Sarah,
Aye.
Anna,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Paula,
Aye.
and I for myself. Great.
Thank you,
all for your
everybody.
time
Good night,
tonight.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.